Aha! Jeez, those things are really angry. Hey there, it's AstroTibs once again. So, I have just released version 3.1 of Village Names, and I know it's been a while, maybe a couple years since the last feature video that I did, so I've got a lot to go over. So, I mean, we're looking at an ocean monument, but what's remarkable is that this is version 1.7 that I'm playing right now. So, one of the biggest things that Village Names added in one of its recent updates, I think it was version 2, were monuments, and then in version 3 I've added guardians. That includes the elders, as you probably saw the animation from earlier. So now those of you who play 1.7 can enjoy these fine monster magic rockfish. Now, for the entirety of this video, I will be playing in version 1.7, but that's okay because all of the changes that I'm talking about in Village Names are parallel across all the versions of Minecraft that this mod is available for. Now, there are a bunch of changes that are specific to 1.7 and a few to 1.8, so for those of you who don't play those versions, I'll put those more towards the end of the video, and you can just skip those. So while I'm on the subject, you might notice that the textures are different. I have another project, a resource pack for 1.7 specifically, called Texture Update Backport. It intends to use the 1.14 textures to the best of my ability, so that's available if you would like to get it. Ooh, also over here, you can see a Chocobo stable. So another of the projects that I have worked on is an update to the 1.7 version of ChocoCraft, known as ChocoCraftPlus. The most important thing that does, aside from generating these stables on occasion, is that it will actually add random stats to the birds, and you can feed them foods to increase their stats permanently and breed them, including things like the Giesel carrot and various other things. So this video is not about that mod, so I will move on. Now, you might have noticed that the villagers have different skins, and that is one of the most recent additions for a little dude with a monocle. The most recent update, version 3.1, includes this. So I am backporting the 1.14 skins. So it's essentially triple layered. There's an underlayer for the villager, and then there's a layer for the biome that he spawned in. And then there's a layer for his career specifically. So this one's a butcher, and the red indicates that he's in the savannah, which is essentially what we see out here. And then this guy, I can tell just by looking at him, he's a Fletcher. So you might be wondering, are the trades different? Are the villagers different at all? And yes, actually they are. So I've actually manipulated the things that I can sell and buy from you. And remember, I'm using 1.7, so I've decided to integrate certain mods that backport things. So for example, Rabbit Stew does not exist in 1.7, but if you're using Et Futurum, it will backport Rabbit Stew. So that's a possible sale option for the butcher. Now, you might recall that in 1.7 there weren't fleshers like there were in 1.8 going forward, but in fact that's one of the new systems I've added in, is I've backported the 1.8 and onward career system for 1.7. I've actually added a new career that wasn't available in any of these versions, and that's this guy, the Mason. Come back here. Where are you even going? So one of these mods is making him, careen around like a bat out of hell, but I'll corner him. There we go. Hi, Vindilna, I suppose. So we now have a stonemason. So now, Vindilna will buy andesite, which again is not available in 1.7. But if you have one of a handful of mods that actually backport andesite, that can be a possible trade. Now let's find the old well. Ah, there it is. So, new in Village Names is that I've backported glazed terracotta and concrete powder. Of course, if you're using the 1.12 version, you'll just have access to that naturally, but I've used it to decorate the well, because I thought it could use a little sprucing up. So now, each village was supposed to have like a color associated with it originally, and this is one of the ways that I could express that. Now, brand new to version 3.1, I've also found a way to integrate that into banners. So in 1.7, you'll have to be using Gainy Surface or Et Futurum to get these banners, but they will spawn. This place is called Alley. Okay. One of the newest features, as of version 2, is that you can actually set a list of different entities, and they will receive names automatically when they enter the world, or you can right-click them. And so this includes things like the guards from Witchery. So come back here. Yep, so he's got a name. I just right-clicked on him, and that activated a name. I could add him to a certain list in the config files so that he automatically obtained a name. All you need to know is his class path. So the config files come prepackaged with a bunch of different entries for automatic naming, and one of those is the witch. So now, witches will come with names on them. And of course, you can turn that off, or you can add any entity you like from vanilla or other mods. It doesn't work with absolutely everything, but it's pretty versatile. So you can set up in the configs, put out in the class path, specify what type of name you want to give it, and it will get the name. Or even if you decide you don't want the name anymore, you can ask it to remove names. Now this actually can include bosses. So here is one of the weirder ones. That is a cheese cube boss from More Planets. I don't know how and if you can even fight this thing, but it comes with its own name now. Now, as a side note, the Ender Dragon can receive a name in 1.7 and 1.8. In 1.9 and I think 1.10, it doesn't display properly on a vanilla health bar, and on 1.11 and 1.12, it won't be permanent, so if you reload the world, it will just generate a new name. So you can get a name, but it won't stick, and this has to do with the way the final boss battle was renovated. And I've tried, I can't really control for that very easily. Now, say I wanted to actually give a name to an entity, such as every sheep could enter the world with a name. How would I do that? Well, I need to get the class path. So if you're savvy and you poke around in the jar files or Minecraft source code, you can find that. But I've added a new feature into village names where you can turn on debug messages and get that value. Now, previously, it was a huge pain to close the entire game and just change your config values that way, so I've added in an in-game menu. So for later versions of Minecraft, this is pretty standard, but for us humble folks on 1.7, this is kind of a luxury. So now I can just go into miscellaneous, let's say debug messages, turn that on. Now if I right-click any entity, it will give me the class path in the corner. And if I check the console, it'll give me sometimes some more information. So that was there for my own use, but now you can use it too. So you can add that value. So let's see. In general settings, if I were to go to entity names, under automatic names, here's the list of everything that comes by default. A few of these are vanilla, but there are entities from other mods like Hardcore Ender Expansion, Twilight Forest, Galacticraft, various things like that. So let's add a new one in here. So I'd need to add the name type, so I could call it villager, but maybe I instead want goblin. Then you put in a pipe. Then you could actually put in a profession name like sheep, but you can leave this blank if you like. Then the class path, and one more pipe and the word add. So now, if you right-click on them, they will get a name. Or since I actually added that to the automatic entities, they should occur automatically. So these are goblin names that it's getting. But what if I decide, oh no, every sheep that spawns has a name and it's becoming a problem? Well, if I go back in, all I have to do is change add to remove. And load the world again. And I load the world again, and they no longer have names. So that's a failsafe in case you name the wrong thing by mistake and becomes a big problem. So speaking of names, I just talked about villager and goblin, but there's a whole series of names. So I added a new command. If you do vn_name, you can generate names for any one of these listed things. So there's Alien Village, that's primarily used for Galacticraft, Aliens for Galacticraft as well, but I've also added, new to this system is now Angel, Demon, Dragon, Golem. So where I wrote goblin before, I could write goblin and get a random name, or, you know, villager. Or actually, one of the new features is that you can hyphen combine them. So villager goblin will take syllables from both pools. So Jephus would be a villager goblin name, or I could do villager goblin angel golem. I'm not going to try to pronounce that, but on top of that, you can throw a number up to 10 at the end, and it will generate a number of them from that pool. So there's 10 villager goblin angel golem names. Speaking of golems, golems can now receive names. So here's Malt. Now, in order for a golem to receive a name, it has to not be owned by you, and there has to be at least one person in its village. The idea is that the villagers tell you what its name is of their golem. If it was your golem, well, you have the power to name it whatever you like. But if you want a random name, it's gotta be not owned by you, and there has to be a villager around. So anyway, here we are on the freaking moon. If you've got ChocoCraft, ooh, I hear the guys. There is naming support for the moon villagers. So they have these bizarre alien names. Now this is the interface from Galaxy Space. But it will work. Tashab and Kokolok. And they will give you Moon Village book. So the name of this village is Fingyarnak. You know what? These are alien names. They're going to be crazy. So a number of structures can be named using village names, including ChocoCraft's abandoned asteroid mining bases and the end towers and end labs from Hardcore Ender expansion. Wow, what an interesting foundation they've given this town. Oh, I forgot all about this one. So one of the mods that I'm using is another one of my mods called Not Enough Cats, which adds a bunch of different cat varieties and different controls over how often cats can chat and their follow range and all that nonsense. So if you're interested in that, look it up, Not Enough Cats. Now, if you're using the right mods, you can get villages that spawn in or near, for example, forests or beaches. So there aren't any vanilla skins that represent those biome types, so I went ahead and made some myself. So this is a forest villager. Specifically, this one's a mason. You just saw him update. So he's got the mason outfit, so he'll offer the mason trades, and he is forest type, as signified by the clothing he's wearing underneath his job outfit. I'll contrast that with, we are right now in Extreme Hills, so here is a cleric wearing the Extreme Hills style biome garment underneath. So there are 7 official vanilla versions, and I've gone ahead and made 7 more. Most of them are going to be extremely rare, maybe a little bit less rare if you're using village improving mods and Biomes of Plenty to add a couple in there, but you're probably not going to see any of my custom ones aside from forest and mountain. So Village Names now actually has achievements. So here are a bunch of the mods that I'm using. There it is. So there are 5 achievements. They're all a little cryptic for how you solve them. You have to identify multiple structures. It's, a little cryptic. Create a village book for an empty village is fairly straightforward. To obtain maximum and minimum reputation in village. And this one is befriend a lonely golem. So I'll leave it up to you to decode what that means. If you can solve all 5 of them, show them again. If you can get all 5 of them, you get a small prize, just as kind of a thank you from me to you for enjoying the mod. Now, new to village names, when a villager is converted to or from a zombie, he will maintain his name and his career. Now, you may not have known this, but having beds and iron bars nearby zombies will actually cause them to convert back to villagers quicker if you're doing the conversion ritual, of course. But the effect is so slight that I had trouble believing it was real, but I checked the source code and sure enough, there it is. So, at most you can change it by maybe a couple %. So, Village Names has new config options where you can specify blocks that will speed up or even slow down this conversion process. So, how do you go about finding the information for those blocks, well, you just turn on the debug messages and right-click a block, and you'll get a lot of the information that you need in the corner. So one of the new features is that you can right-click a village book onto a villager, and they'll give you a hint about what your reputation in the village is. Nobody knows what to make of you. That's one of the messages it'll give you if you have a reputation of 0, and that's the default. So, let's see, this guy's a cartographer. Okay, he's got a new trait available, but my reputation should have gone up, so let's see what he says about me now. Come back. You are a stranger, but the villagers seem interested, so mild interest, which means my reputation is a little bit positive. Now, you might be wondering, what's the point of a cartographer if they can't give you treasure maps? And that's a great question. They cannot indeed give you treasure maps. That is too hard to backport. However, when you've leveled up your cartographer enough times, they will start to offer you various trades that are exclusive to village names. So in this case, I can give this guy a written fortress book, and he'll give me back an 8-minute potion of fire resistance. Now, let me go grab one of those here. There are a number of different possible trades that these things can offer you, the cartographers, but also librarians offer them too. So cartographers will offer you things like potions and various trinkets, and then librarians, when you get their levels high enough, will offer you enchanted books, all in exchange for village names related items. Oh, hey, so I just heard my villager friend get converted back from a zombie, and I got one of the achievements because I've maxed out my reputation in this village for being such a good boy. So available in this mod is all the different variations of glazed terracotta. So you now have access to this block in any version of Minecraft you like, from 1.7 up to 1.12. You also have access to concrete and concrete powder, which operate exactly as you should expect. So it does convert when it falls into the water, like you might expect. Now, one problem is that glazed terracotta still sticks to sticky pistons. There's not much I can do about that. It involves a piston rewrite, and who really cares that much about them not sticking? Just deal with it, I'm sorry. Oh yeah, I also added an iron block, a Lunaran style iron block, to complement the gold block that I made long, long ago. So just in case you need a new way to store your iron ingots, there it is. So there aren't many things that were added exclusively to 1.7 and 1.8, but one of those things is the Igloo. So igloos can spawn in icy plains or cold taiga biomes, and there's a config option that's off by default that you can turn on to allow it to spawn in snowy biomes from other mods. Now, I had to reconstruct this thing from scratch. I tried to make it as accurate as possible. This is one mistake. I can't get the thing to always face outward, but oh well. So you might be asking yourself, is the Igloo complete? And if you know what I'm talking about, then I'll just say yes, it is. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then boy, do you have a surprise in store. Maybe. Now lastly, for 1.8 and 1.7, I've added some sound effects. I've backported sound effects for general quality of life improvements. So one of those things is the furnace. Also sound effects for the item frame and the painting. I don't know where the item frame just went to, but that's okay. And the bucket. This includes milking a cow. So that about wraps it up for all the major new features in village names. There will be a link in the description for you to download the mod. It's available for versions 1.7 through 1.12, and the changelog will go into more detail about all the various changes. Thanks so much, and see you next time.